Right, yes. Okay, my name is Mirjam Blaak Sow. I was originally a Dutch citizen. I studied there and I got a master's degree in laws. So after my degree, I was working with UNHCR in Nairobi, Kenya. And that was the period from 82 to 85. And at that time, there were thousands of Ugandans who were fleeing the Obote regime. And that is how I got to learn the national resistance movement, its leaders, many of whom were in Nairobi as refugees. Some of them recognized, others are not. And at one stage, there was a lot of insecurity. People were kidnapped to go back, force them back to Uganda. So that is when a lot of the leaders who were working behind the scenes to help President Museveni in the struggle against injustice and chaos and anarchy that was prevailing in Uganda at that time, who came to me and said, "But Ambassador, I was not Ambassador, Mirjam, you are the protection officer. You have to protect us against these injustice." It was a violation. It's called a refoulement in international law. It's not supposed to happen when you're being returned by force to the country where you fear prosecution. So that was a real turning point. It happened in 83. I had just arrived about 1.5 years, and that is when a lot of people were in danger, like the former prime minister, the prime minister before that, Dr. Uganda, Mbabazi, the wife of the president, his children. I managed to assist them to go to Sweden. So they actually took asylum there as a second country. Yeah, so this was going on for a long time. There are many others who were then later on became ministers who had also been refugees in Nairobi, who had to look for other countries of asylum because it became too dangerous for them to stay in Nairobi. So that happened, and there were many other armed groups that were opposing the regime of Milton Obote, but I always had a little bit more faith, quite a bit more faith in the national resistance movement. They were more strong, they were more serious, they were more... So I used to get regular reports from Dr. Uganda when he was still living in Nairobi, and we would get close to discussions on the way forward and where we are and how things need to be dealt with differently. So when I left UNHCR, I started a consultancy firm in Nairobi. I didn't go back to the Netherlands. And that is when there was another regime change in July 85. And that is when the President Museveni, he was not a president then, he was the commander of the armed forces, who came to Nairobi and asked to meet with me. And of course we discussed a lot, and he said, "Thank you what you've done for people of Uganda in your capacity and for my family in particular. And would you like to work with me, in establishing contacts with different embassies whose political officers I always knew because of the refugee situation." So that is what I did. I introduced the external committee to the embassies. So we had ties because everybody believed that national resistance movement, national resistance army were a bunch of Marxist, socialist, Leninist, whatever isms you could attribute to them. They didn't believe that this was a person that required their support in case he became a leader. So then we had the peace talks, and then eventually President Museveni took over. In any case, the peace talks were signed. He was supposed to become the vice president, but he was already more than half in charge of the country except capital Kampala. So in January, I got a telephone call. Said, "Mirjam, we're in Kampala. Can you come?" I said, "Of course I'll come." And then...
Which year was that?
86. That is when he took over. So I said, "Of course I'll come. So can you organize a charter flight for us?" Because there were no flights anymore because of the coup d'etat. The flights all had stopped. No Kenya Airways, no Uganda Airlines, all the flights. So I chartered an air charter and then flew with about 11 people. Prime Minister hadn't been sworn in, who was also still in Nairobi, the wife and some 2 nieces, and some other